Welcome in to Extra Time with the Courage. I'm your host, Jordan Kramer, and unfortunately, it appears like the NC Courage's woes they had before the first international break of the year have carried over to after the international break. Before we talk about Sunday's game against the Washington Spirit, we do have to address the one person who was not in the nation's capital this weekend, and that, of course, was head coach Sean Nahas. Just hours before the game, the club shared that Nahas would not be with the team for Sunday's game, releasing a statement saying, and quote, due to unforeseen medical reasons, NC Courage head coach Sean Nahas will not be with the team for today's away match against the Washington Spirit. Assistant coach Nathan Thackeray will assume the head coaching duties. We appreciate respect for Sean's privacy and look forward to having him back with the team soon. While this show is, of course, to highlight the athletic feats in the competition we see week in and week out in the NWSL, Sean's absence certainly is a reminder there are more important things in this world than sport, and we certainly are thinking of him and wishing him well as he navigates these medical concerns that left him out of Sunday's game. The club no doubt missed him on Sunday afternoon, and probably a difficult game for him to watch from afar, as well as the Courage fell to the Washington Spirit 3-1. There are some really great things that we saw in this game, especially from the Courage and really the first 35 minutes of action, but Washington ultimately struck first and then again quickly after with a pair of goals in just a 3-minute time span, including the would-be game winner netted by former Courage forward Brittany Ratcliffe. Monaka Matsukobu continues to bring her magic to the pitch. She brought the Courage within one goal in the 32nd minute, but then Gift Monday's second half goal ultimately put this game to bed. It's now back-to-back losses for the NC Courage. Despite the outcome, Monaka continues to be a bright, shining star for this club. Her goal on Sunday was her fourth in the last 3 games. She currently leads the NC Courage in goals scored this season with 4. No other Courage player has netted more than 2 goals in the 2025 season. Joining us this week on Extra Time with the Courage is NC Courage assistant coach Victoria Boardman. Victoria, how you doing this Tuesday afternoon?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
I am doing okay. A little tired, but that's all right. I know you guys are plenty tired though, because you've been, road warriors the last couple of weeks. You have one more to close it out, but how excited are you to get back home here in 2 weeks and maybe just have a weekend here in Raleigh?
Yeah, no, we're excited. We love obviously playing at home, and but can't get too excited because obviously we have to travel to LA on Wednesday. So yeah, looking forward to the game against Houston, but obviously focus is on this upcoming game against LA.
Well, looking back at this last weekend against the Washington Spirit, certainly not the result that you all were hoping for, a 3-1 loss to Washington. Watching that game, the first 35 minutes, I thought you guys looked really, really solid. There was a lot of opportunities that you had in front of the net. What's it going to take for this club to kind of just capitalize on that opportunities? Because it feels like at this point, that's kind of been a running theme throughout the season. You've had your chances, just haven't really buried the goals.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this weekend we probably should have been 2-0 up before they scored their first goal, and it's the hardest thing in football is to finish your chances. But I think from us, we're pleased with the amount of chances we're creating. Obviously disappointed with how we're finishing those, but I think it's just really repetition and building that confidence in front of goal. And we've definitely got players that can score goals. So for us, obviously we'll go away, work on that, and yeah, hopefully can respond against LA.
Well, you talk about players that can score goals. Manaka, has been just on fire recently, 4 goals in the last 3 games. What is working so well for her and giving her that confidence that she can finish game in and game out?
Yeah, I mean, she's just really confident at the moment. When you score goals, obviously your confidence increases, and she's on a really good run of form. And that goal she scored at the weekend, she does that every day in training.
So good.
And sometimes most of the time she doesn't score. So to go and do that in the game at that moment, and to do it with that quality against that type of opponent was incredible. So, but yeah, she's in great form. We're really happy with how she's doing.
She looks incredibly confident in front of the net. How do you kind of generate that confidence among some of the other players so that it's not just Manaka that's kind of involved in the final box score at the end of the game?
Yeah, I think it's just, we try to give them as much belief as possible. Sometimes it comes down to a little bit of belief, right? Like that confidence. I don't question that the players, can't finish. It's not that. It's just, sometimes it doesn't go your way. And, it's like you get one and then you get multiple goals. That's kind of how football works. And there'll be times where their confidence is up and down and fluctuating. But yeah, I think for us, we know we're doing the right things. We just got to trust the process and keep working on it, and it will definitely come for sure.
Well, on Sunday, Malia Berkeley made her return to the lineup. How good was it just to get her back in the mix?
Yeah, great. I mean, obviously, Malia is, she's an incredible footballer and gives us such a different look with the ball in the build. So yeah, great having her back. It gives us options at the back now because the players that have stepped in her absence have done really, really well. So yeah, it's great to have her back, and yeah, obviously she builds her fitness. It's yeah, we'll see how we do.
Courtney Vine made her first start of the season. What have you seen from her in training that kind of made you feel like she was ready to take that next step, get that first start of the year for her?
Yeah, Courtney, she gives us a different look in the front line because she's got pace and she can run in behind. She's actually very good in front of goal. So I think it's exciting that now we're looking at her and giving her a run, and I thought she did well at the weekend. I think it's going to obviously take some time because she hasn't had many minutes. Yeah, she's going to give us a different look, and I'm excited to see what she can bring for us over the next few weeks.
I think one of the interesting facets of NWSL and professional women's soccer is that you do have these international breaks. So you had four of your players leave the team for a couple of weeks, go play with their country. What is that process like to get them kind of back involved in what the Courage are doing? What does that look like? Because I imagine it's got to be different for each player. They're coming back at different times. Could you walk me through that?
Yeah, it's really difficult to reintegrate them because they're not here in the week. They don't hear all of the information about the opponent or about us. So you have to get them up to speed really, really quickly, which is a challenge. You get like one training session with them where they can't train hard. It's just kind of them getting up to speed with what we're trying to do and look at the game plan. But yeah, it's super challenging, but it's the same for every team. So I feel that's kind of the way I look at it. You try and make the best of the situation.
Obviously, it's been two back-to-back rough outings for the club, but I think one of the cornerstones that I've seen from this club this season is just the resiliency. You look at the way you started and then you kind of turned that corner really quickly. So how do you kind of get this team kind of back on track, knowing that really you look at the NWSL standings, you're only 3 points out of playoff contention right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, the team is very resilient. I think even at the weekend when you see that, we're 3-1 down and, we're pushing really hard to get back into the game, like that's something we don't, certainly don't question. I think, sorry, my mind's gone. What was that last bit?
How do you kind of instill that confidence that this club has the ability to turn the corner? Because you did do that almost earlier this year, and now you got 2 games before you get to another international break, and I know you want to close it out strong.
Yeah, for sure. Like the league is so tight that a couple of wins and you can be right back up there. So that's kind of the way that we will be looking at it. You win a couple of games. Like we had a really good run before the games against San Diego and Spirit, where we were undefeated in 4. That can happen again really, really quickly. And all of a sudden you're undefeated in 4 and you're in the top position. So because the league is so tight, I mean, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I don't get too concerned with the results. I think that we're not even halfway through the season. And I believe that we can push for those playoff spots for sure. Like I know we have the quality in the team to do that. And we've shown we can beat any team in the league by beating Kansas. Obviously taking points off of Orlando. So on our day, we know we can beat anybody. I don't feel we've actually been really, completely outplayed by any team. I think that's a really big positive for us. It's different if you're struggling and you're not getting results and you're playing poorly, but the performances have actually been good and some have been okay, and that's the piece we have to sort of keep going with what we're doing, and at some point it will turn.
You've
for
got two
sure.
games before the July international break, the first of which, of course, is a cross country trip out to California to play Angel City FC. As you look at them and what they've done this season, what stands out to you the most about that club?
Yeah, they've obviously got some really good attacking threats. So they're going to be dangerous, you know. So we're obviously going to prepare as best as we can to face them. But yeah, for sure, it's going to be a difficult game.
All right, Victoria, stick around. We're going to talk about you here after the break. So get ready for that. I know it's everyone's like least favorite thing to do.
Okay.
Welcome back to Extra Time with the Courage. Victoria Boardman still joining us here. And now we're talking about her, which is so exciting. Vic, you joined the club in 2023, but you spent about 5, 6 years out in California prior to that. What made you want to make this cross country move out here to North Carolina?
Yeah, yeah, I spent pretty much 10 years or so in California when I came out here in 2012. Really just the opportunity. I had a conversation with Sean, and we're very, very aligned with how we see the game, have a very similar philosophy. I'd worked with Sean and Nathan in a youth national team camp, so kind of, you know, got to know them then. And then, yeah, he brought me on staff, and, you know, like 3 years later, here we are.
One of the things that he said in the presser that was released when you were hired by the club back in 2023 was that you guys had really always wanted to work together. What is it about kind of Sean, his philosophy, the way that he approaches the game that made you want to join this staff and maybe be able to learn a little bit under him?
Yeah, he's just it's just his football philosophy. Is a purist. Like the way he sees the game is, you know, the way he wants his teams to play is how I enjoy, you know, coaching, and I see it through a very, very similar lens. Um, and yeah, I think it's important to work with someone that you are aligned with, because if you're teaching a different style that you're not really bought into, it's really difficult. So for me, it was a really easy decision to come and work for him, and I've learned, you know, so much working with him, and yeah, it's been a really good experience for me.
I'm curious, what is something that we don't know about this coaching staff?
Something you don't know. I think we're all very, very different. Like we all bring like a unique skill set, I think, to the staff, which I think is great. Like our personalities are very different. Um, so I think that's a good thing, because what you don't want is a coaching staff that's all the same. So like a coaching staff that maybe can't think outside the box, or you know, come up with creative ideas. So I think that we have a really good blend and mix of people, good people, which is so important. Like you have to, you know, have good people in the room, but also people with certain expertise. So I think that, you know, it's a really good balance. And the other thing is we've all worked in the youth game, and I think that's so important. Like that's where your foundation is built as a coach. So I think our unique experiences as a group makes us a really strong staff.
All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here. One word to describe each of the five coaches on staff's personalities.
Okay. Sean would be demanding.
Okay.
Um, Nathan would be fun.
Okay. I see it.
Emma would be caring.
She's a mom, so
Yeah, she's good human. So that's it. That's it, everyone, right?
yourself.
Passionate.
Okay. All right. I love that. I actually think those are kind of, from my knowledge of the staff, I feel like that's the best way that you could describe each of the four of you. Well, you came here from San Diego. You spent the 2022 season with the Wave. That was their first season. Helped them make a playoff berth that year. What is the biggest difference from your perspective coming from a club who was really like boots on the ground year one versus coming to the Courage, that's a club that's been established, that's had kind of the success, the top level of this thing? Where do the differences lie?
Yeah, it's a huge difference. I think just setting the club up from the ground was was so challenging at San Diego. Like you're going into a building and everything is new. So putting those processes in place and putting a team together, it was so different to then coming to North Carolina, where they've got this great history, where obviously winning and they've got everything in place. So there's a structure, there's processes, there's staff, there's players that have played for years at the club. So I think it's extremely different. It's been great to experience both. Definitely wouldn't change anything, but it was very refreshing to go into North Carolina not having to start again, which is, like I said, really long hours and just really tough, but wouldn't change any.
I can imagine too, and you're trying to like sell the product to the fans in the area as well, which had to be like a really interesting experience. Well, I saw in addition to your role with the Courage, you've been a scout for the U.S. Youth National Team since 2020. I'm curious, from your perspective, what does the talent assessment process look like?
Yeah, I think it's obviously just identifying young talents in your market, right? I have a really good understanding of the best young players just through my experiences, watching those young teams. I've worked with some of these young players. So I think it's the next piece is really just identifying the top talents in this market, and really having a real good understanding of who they are as people, and potentially bringing them into our environment to look at them. Obviously, without a draft, that's going to be important, and hopefully sign some of those that fit with the NC Courage.
Well, you really just led perfectly into my next question. Without the NWSL draft and with players being more able to kind of pick where they're going, where they're playing, how important is that scouting aspect, especially as I know the NC Courage, one of their main goals is to really, or North Carolina Football Club is really to bolster kind of their youth academy.
Yeah, it's crucial. If you don't get ahead in this part, then you're going to miss out on these young talents that are coming through. So yeah, just knowing the players, and just really getting to know them. It's important to know that they're a good fit for the locker room, right? Not just obviously the football perspective, but yeah, getting them, inviting them into our environment, which we have done, and just assessing them, and building a relationship to hopefully, if they're the right fit, to come in and sign for us.
I know you get to go back to California this week, second time in like a 4 week span. When you're back in California, like, do you find yourself trying to go to your favorite restaurants you used to go to, maybe get like a coffee from a local coffee shop? I know your schedule is so tight from the coaching aspect, but do you get to do a little bit of like the fun that you had?
I wish I could say yes, but I actually lived on the beaches, which is nowhere near downtown and nowhere near the stadium. So the hotel is right near the stadium. I don't actually know anything in downtown LA. I never spend any time there, which is a shame. But sometimes if we have an off day, then I will stay an extra day and spend time with friends, family that I have there, and go do those things that you've said. But honestly, it's business trip most of the time. It's in and out. Like San Diego was in, out, and back to Raleigh. So yeah.
Maybe we can get you to like DoorDash a coffee or something from like a favorite spot, just so you can have like a taste of California. Victoria, we
Yeah.
appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate it.
The NC Courage have 2 games left before they enter the July international window. A home game against Houston that's happening 2 weeks, but more pressing is Sunday's game against Angel City FC. Angel City has had a similar level of success as the Courage, especially the last few games. They are winless in their last 3 with a 4-3-4 overall record. You take a look at the standings. Well, this is a huge opportunity for the NC Courage to make up some ground in these NWSL standings. Angel City is in 9th in league standing with 15 points. The Courage have the opportunity to swap with them in the standings. If they can go out west to Los Angeles and get a win, they potentially put themselves just 1 spot out of playoff contention. So a really big 3 points on the line for the NC Courage as they close out not only this game, this portion of the season, but a 3-game road trip that they have now been on. They do that it's going to be big. What's it going to take from them? Well, you have to find a way to slow down the offensive efforts of Riley Tiernan and Alyssa Thompson. They've combined to score 11 of Angel City's 18 goals this season. Thompson, undeniably one of the rising stars in not just this league, but really women's soccer as a whole. She became the youngest player in the NWSL to reach 25 goal contributions, and she is just 20 years old. A really big 3 points on the line for the NC Courage as they head out west to take on Angel City this weekend. I'll be watching. I know you will be too. But that's going to do it for this week on Extra Time with the Courage. We'll see you back here next week.